It's good to see those of you who are on. We got a low turnout so far this morning. Hopefully everybody kind of gets out of bed and gets their hair combed and gets on.
Yeah, maybe they think it's good morning, Chris. Maybe they think it's already daylight savings time.
Yes, maybe that's the case. All right, that's all right. Well, we're gonna get rolling. We're not gonna wait around for anybody. That's they're missing out. Let's hit some leaderboards. Let's see what we've got going on for the week. Sorry, I gotta get my stuff organized. Okay, so for the week, we've had 6 riders, so we're a little bit down on riders, but I know we've got a pipeline coming. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, so I'm excited about what's coming down. But so far for the week, and I realize, obviously, more business yet to come. Stella, I know you've got some more appointments. I think Donna probably does too, and I'm sure probably the others have more appointments. But so far for the week, we have Terry Myers with 2 applications, 900 APV. Spencer Cushion, 3 applications, $2,486. Stacy Love, 4 applications, $4,178. Edged out just barely by Stella Dinwiddie coming in. Hey, and if you're going to write one app, you better make it a $4,000 app. $4,482. That's a great application. So, and I know, Stella, you've got more appointments this week. Miss Donna Bates, so far, and I know more business is coming in, but these leaderboards were pulled about an hour ago. Already 4 applications, $9,250. Congratulations, Donna. Solid week. And rumor has it you will pass the $10,000 mark. And of all weeks, Donna, I mean, you crushed it this week, but some doofus came in and edged you out this week. And it's an agent that barely gets out and writes any business, but went out and a stroke of randomness, I happened to go out and write 3 applications for $10,748. So sorry, Donna, didn't mean to edge you out. Now the day's not over. I want you to go out and I want you to beat me. Rumor has it I may have another application or 2 in the pipeline, but that's nothing's done here. So we still have the rest of the day Friday. So don't let some has-been who just stumbled into some applications beat you out this week. So, all right, great week so far. And again, I know we've got a lot more in the pipeline. Let's take a quick glance back at October, because we had a solid October overall as a hierarchy, $225,000, guys. That's just a solid month. It really is. And, you know, we're growing. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about some of that this morning, but that's, you know, that's good. 37 riders, which I think I have to go back and look at my numbers. That may be a high watermark for the hierarchy. I know we've had 35 before, but 37 seems like that could be a new high watermark, which is excellent. I mean, that's exactly what we want to be seeing. So let's just hit top 10 though. So out of 37 riders, we're going to hit the top 10 out of the entire hierarchy. So obviously it's not only our group, but the veteran group as well. Natalie Hermit had 11 applications for $8,838. She's direct to Eric Sullivan. Angel Gooding, 7 applications, $9,275, direct to John Paul. Derek McPherson, 10 applications, $9,520, direct to John Paul. Miss Stacy Love at number 7 with 13 applications, great app count, $11,085, direct to Donna. Terry Myers, 13 applications, $12,570, direct to Stella. Spencer Cushion, 18 applications, $15,000, $15,001. So he almost hit it right on the head. Direct to myself. Donna Bates in the number 4 spot for the month of October. Great month, Donna. 17 applications, $15,654, direct to Spencer. John Paul, 12 applications, $20,359, direct to myself. Stella Dinwiddie in the number 2 spot with 19 applications, $25,259. And guys, that was with a move, which that would be enough to derail most of us. but also included a week-long trip to South Carolina, and she still cranked out 25K. So guys, don't tell me it can't be done when we got somebody who's working 3 weeks out of the month and busting out 25K. So what are you doing with your time? That's all I got to say. And Miss Jenny Gray was #1 on the month of October. 29 applications. Man, she is just crushing on app count. $30,800 direct to John Paul. Excited. And shout out to Stacy Love for Slingshot, or as the owners would say, she slingshot up to the 85. And little bonus doesn't hurt the feelings too bad. I have a feeling a little extra kicker on the cash side. Saw that come through. That's pretty awesome. So shout out to Stacy Love for going out and making that happen. Great job. And we also had Jenny Gray do that as well. So 2 of our team took advantage. And guys, that slingshot bonus goes all the way through February. So if you didn't hit it last month, no worries. Load up. Let's load up for November and go back and hit it again. I mean, that's beautiful that they've put that in place for everybody just to hit, keep hitting it from now until our training seminar in February. So quick note, as I was looking at production and a little bit of a slow start overall, and then I mean, several of you already got a massive start for the month. So I'm not calling anybody out particular, but I'm just saying overall for the month of November, and this is a holiday season. We always talk about this. Make sure you plan out your production. The beautiful thing about this business is we run our own business. We control our own time. That means we could take time off to be with family and friends and have a good time around the holidays. But the catch-22 is when you own your own business, you're responsible for getting your business in. It doesn't matter if there's a holiday or not. And I used to own a traditional business, and I used to joke that owning a small business meant you got to work weekends and holidays. Beautiful thing about this business is you don't have to work weekends and holidays, but you better plan around it, and you better make sure you get your business indexed where you're getting it in so you can take off that time. So again, just a friendly shout out to everybody. Make sure that you're looking at your calendar in November. Okay, we've got Thanksgiving. We know when that's going to be. It doesn't change, but also be planning ahead for December. Also, don't get caught in the mindset. I don't think anybody on here will, but in fact, I had a conversation with somebody the other day that really didn't understand our business. He's like, "Well, you guys pretty much take off from Thanksgiving to Christmas, don't you?" And I was like, "No, we do not. In fact, we doubled down. That's our best time to write business historically as a company." And some of the biggest weeks have been between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So guys, load up. Again, take your time off, enjoy all the holidays, but make sure you're being very intentional around that process. Stella, quick pause. Do you have anything that you want to touch on for?
Yes, thank you so much, Chris. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that this is our strongest month. And I would love to remind people that, this time last year, that's when I was on my agency owner run. And I also went through a move. And last month, you're absolutely right. I'm not here to boast. I just want to share that I'm learning about myself, how far I can push myself and not go crazy. And you can too. It's just, I love, if any of, so first of all, you talked about these are the strongest months. We just talked about this on my team call yesterday or 2 days ago. This, you guys, everybody has come together. And I love what you shared last year, Chris, about this being the strongest time of the year. And that's why they have all these contests with November to Remember. And that's why you're going to start seeing crazy numbers. So you can either be a part of it or you can be on the sidelines wishing you had done the activity. And then, rather and sit around at Thanksgiving going, gosh, because here what's happened is everybody that's went on their summer vacations, now they're all hunkering down. And now, like what you said, Chris, last year, you reminded everybody how people talk together about what happened. And there's a lot of stories out there right now, not just COVID, but everything, and, we hear it week in, week out, and people congregate and talk, and those stories get shared. And that's, people are home. So take advantage of it. I know I'm going to, I'm going to double down this month versus what I did last month. And I am going to open up my dial Zoom room after the call is up from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And then you're right, Chris, I've got a number of appointments. And one thing I learned last night, real quick, sorry, Chris, is I want to share with you guys that, so, last night, because I'm still unpacking boxes, but I was like, gosh, I've got so much follow-up. There's people that I haven't talked to that I talked to before I went to South Carolina. But it was after 7, around 7:30. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll call the people who already know me, because the people who are brand new, fresh leads, it was no longer, I felt like an optimal time, like past 7:30 is kind of pushing it. But so 7:30 last night, I called, some people that I sat with to follow up with, and booked them appointment for next week. They're like, yeah, we're ready to sign. Talked to another one who said, yeah, let's get us on the schedule. So call the people, if you feel like it's late at night and like, oh, I just don't want to, have somebody wonder, who am I this time at night? Call people who already know you, follow up with them. So that's what I wanted to share. And thank you so much, Chris. And just, everybody, just give it your all. And if you haven't seen that video by Danny Young on that Pogue call yesterday, oh my gosh, you guys, that is such gold. I just would highly recommend it. Matter of fact, I'm going to post it in the chat screen so that you guys can, those of you who haven't heard it, can hear it. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, Stella. Thanks for putting that in. So a couple things, and to be honest with you guys, my notes today filled on a Post-it note. So this is not going to be a highly organized call, but there's a reason for that. And we'll kind of talk about that. Kind of what I wanted to do is just kind of briefly touch on a couple things, kind of where we're at and where we're going, but just kind of more talk off the cuff, because I want to, sometimes, we can get a little bit too over planned. And so I kind of want this to be more of a dialogue. And quite honestly, we've got a small enough group here that feel free to chime in at any point. Anybody can unmute if you've got a thought that comes in and you want to throw that out on the table. I'm going to open the floor today. Looking at, I did want to touch on one thing though, guys, before I kind of get too far on the call. Snapshot came out yesterday, which, if you don't know, Snapshot is our report. So that's for issue paid. So all the business that we write, we don't get a report on that to anywhere from 7 to 10 days after the first of the month. And it kind of depends. This month we got it pretty early. Sometimes we don't get it till about a week or so into the following month. But looking at Snapshot across the board, not just those of us on here. In fact, we had some on here who had actually really good issue paid numbers, but overall as a hierarchy, man, we're struggling. The issue paid was about a little under 60%, which is not good. That's subpar. The reason I bring that up is not necessarily to just, hey, you got to do better. I mean, when I look at that, my concern always is, number one, you guys aren't getting paid. If your numbers are hovering in that area, you're not getting paid. Now, I realize, keep in mind too, that if we write business the last day of the month or the last week of the month, sometimes it's going to be in processing. So there's always a rollover factor. But one of the things that I've been observing overall as a hierarchy is we tend to have 2 to 3 months of just subpar issue paid, and then we'll bounce up. We'll have a good month, and then we'll drop back down. And a lot of it, it's not that people aren't writing business or writing a ton of business. I think it's we got to be really intentional about the type of business that we write, and make sure that you're placing it with carriers who are going to get the clients approved. And that's tough, I know, because I get it. Clients, tell you one thing, and then you start writing the application, you find out something entirely different. It happens. I mean, it happens to all of us. One of the things, I was having a conversation with Scott the other day, and he made a great point because he was working with a couple of agents who were, quite frankly, were submitting massive turn-in numbers, but their issue paid was even worse than the numbers I just gave you. They were really struggling. And so he started digging into the numbers and asking them what they were doing. A couple of things. Number one, they were writing with the wrong carriers. I mean, they were chasing the cheapest premium. I'm going to tell you guys, you'll lose every time when you do that. But number two, they were kind of skimming over the application. And what I mean is they would say, hey, do you have any heart condition? Instead of, do you have any AFib? Do you have any irregular heartbeat? Do you have any congestive heart failure? Do you have... So you've got to go through each of these questions, guys, line by line, word by word, because it happens. I mean, and it's crazy. You talk to somebody on the phone. Yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. Yep, I'm great. And then you get there and you see the basket of medicine. Now, no, I say get there. This is when, we were actually going out in the homes, which is where I started. And you got a basket of medicine on the table. And you're like, well, who's that belong to? Oh yeah, that's mine. Okay, well, you may be in good shape, but it's only because your medicines are keeping you upright. And so that's, and that's a problem. We all know it. We laugh about it, but that's a problem. So it's the same thing on the application. Hey, do you have any heart condition? Now, this is how, and I think it's more of a psychological thing. I don't think they're trying to mislead anybody. It's just, they went in, they had a procedure done. The doctor said, hey, you're good to go. Take these meds and you should be fine from here on out. So in their mind, yeah, I don't have any heart problems. Now, from an underwriting standpoint, they've got heart problems. I don't care if it's been fixed. The insurance company wants to know that they had that procedure done at that time and they're taking this medication. That's all part of the underwriting. So guys, make sure that you're going through those line by line, asking each one of those questions. One of the things, though, I want to point out, because as I looked at the carrier list, who is getting business issued from our carriers? And I've shared this with you before. Obviously, Americo is an instant decision company. John Hancock is an instant decision company. But as I looked at last month's list, and this is a new product, so not everybody has full access to it yet, but as you get access, here's what I'm going to tell you. The only company that we have 100% issue paid rate on right now for last month, for October, SBLI. Quality level term came in at 100%. So as a hierarchy, we wrote $18,000 worth of that stuff, and all 18,000 of it issue paid. So if you don't have access to it yet, hang tight. I know there's been some issues in contracting. They're getting worked through that. And I would say very, very quickly, we'll have everybody able to write that product. As soon as you can, I would go there first every time if it's a term situation. Now, obviously, your seniors, we're not going to try right term on them. Anybody 60 plus, I don't recommend that. It's just generally not a good idea. But if you're in a situation where term is called for, I would be looking first at SBLI at the quality level term. I mean, those numbers, quite frankly, when I saw that 100%, and it's not a huge amount that we've written with them, but still, yeah, I mean, $18,000, you would have thought that there would have been something that crashed and burned somewhere in the mix, and it didn't. It all went through. Now, again, probably people were very careful about writing that and making sure that they looked at the, and there's a little questionnaire. When you pull up the application link, there's a quick questionnaire. Does the client meet these criteria? So it kind of does a quick pre-screen for you. But strongly encourage that product, guys.
Hey, so, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, I'm sorry. This is Terry. I just had a quick question on that since you mentioned that they're at 100%. How could it be anything other than 100% with SBLI? Just because, I mean, we know whenever we're writing with them, if they're going to be declined. So if they happen to be declined, it's not an application you would ever enter and opt anyway. Because I've had one of those so far. So I don't bother, I end up writing them with another carrier. So they don't get entered into opt as an application in the first place. So how could it be anything?
And that's a good point. You're right. It probably is. Because I'm thinking, like Americo, if you get through the application and get a decline at the end of the application, it still has to be entered because it is counted as an app. So it's a good point, Terry. I mean, it's actually, I think Symmetry actually set it up that way now that you mentioned it, where it wouldn't count against you. But again, that kind of reinforces what I'm telling you, because I would start there, because if they get turned down, that's going to be a red flag, number one. Because if they're getting turned down on it, that means we got to double back. Okay, so the first carrier I went with, we didn't get approved. That means there is something there. Let's go back through the questions again. You know, have you ever? And this is the tricky thing, guys. And this is something that even a lot of agents don't understand, let alone clients. But if you went into the doctor 5 years ago and the doctor said, you know what, I'm a little worried about your heart, I'm going to prescribe this medication, and you never went and filled the medication, it doesn't matter. It's going to show up on your script check. He prescribed it, so it's going to be in your medical record. So that's where it's important when we're digging in on the underwriting to ask those questions. Has the doctor ever said that you could have this? And have they ever recommended taking something? Even if you didn't take it. And I ask it that way. Even if you didn't take the medication, did they ever suggest that maybe you ought to think about taking it? Because there's a good chance if the doctor is trying to convince them to go ahead and take it, they will go ahead and write the script and give it to them and say, think about it. I recommend you take it. And the client just chose not to fill it. Doesn't matter. It shows up in their script check. And that's the problem. So when we get these situations where we go back to the client and they're like, well, no, I haven't. I swear I answered the questions honestly. Well, they probably are. It's not that they're being dishonest. It's that we've got to dig a little bit deeper and again, ask those questions with a little bit more depth. Have you ever had a doctor say this or say that, or give you a prescription that you never got filled? And typically, even if they were given that prescription and they never filled it, and we can't get them qualified with that particular company, that's not a death sentence as far as getting an application approved. It just means we need to take it somewhere else. But we need to know that, because I mean, the worst thing that you can do is bounce around to 3 or 4 different carriers and get 3 or 4 different declines. Not only is that not necessarily good for the client, because that's going to start showing up with other insurance companies that they're getting multiple rejections, but it also is going to screw your issue paid numbers up. Because if you do go through all the way through the end of most, and again, to Terry's point, you're right, SBLI is structured to where it doesn't actually count as an app because of the way that we have the underwriting set up in the pre-screen, but everybody else it will. So if you put it through with John Hancock, you put it through with Americo, you put it through with American Amicable, I mean, all those, if you get through the end, even with their instant decision, if you hit submit at the end of that and it gets a kickback, we have to count it. So that's just something you need to watch out for. So,
hey, Chris, I have a quick follow-up with SBLI. I had a woman the other night, it let her go all the way through. And then it asked her questions about her family medical history. She's a smoker and her mom died of cancer before age 60. She signed the HIPAA statement. We did the HIPAA check, and then it modified her rate, but it didn't give a decline at that point. So we kept going, and then it said, yeah, no, we're unable to offer coverage. But I feel like it went past a certain point. So at what point do we not have to enter that particular app?
That's a good question, and I don't know. My understanding is you can go through the entire app and fill it out, and if it's not accepted, we still don't have to count it. But I would just send a message or open a support ticket with the new business department. So that's a good question though. I mean, it's a new product and we kind of want to make sure we understand. My understanding, and again, this is just my understanding, so it's not particularly accurate, but as I understand it, that application, we can pretty much go from front to back. And if we get turned down, it shouldn't count against us. But I don't know in that particular situation. It sounds like it was a turn down based on the questionnaire. So it was allowing the application to go through because it probably wasn't really picking up any big red flags on the back end underwriting, because as we're filling out the applications, if you don't know, it's underwriting it real time. And so it wasn't picking up any red flags. But when she answered that question, we already knew she was a smoker. And then we get, hey, you got a family history of cancer prior to age 60. That's where your red flag flew up and caused it to bounce. So, and I have a feeling with this particular product, because it's kind of my sense is it's almost kind of a hybrid product, meaning, yes, it's still simplified issue, but technology is getting to the point where they can underwrite those pretty strenuously, even without doing blood and urine. And so, if you've ever done a fully underwritten product, I mean, gosh, they go not only in great detail of your medical history, but your family's medical history. And I've actually had a case in the past where, a family had, I know specifically a guy, his brother had Huntington's disease, which is a genetic disease. And so the where we started out, and again, situation where it's like perfectly healthy, did the field underwriting, got all the questions that I wanted answered in the right way, and we started the application, and buried way down deep, towards the end of the application, have you or your family or anybody in your history have ever had a Huntington's disease, ALS, Lou Gehrig's? It kind of goes through, and he's like, yeah, my brother has Huntington's. Well, that blew up the application right there. So, some of the companies, especially the more lenient they are, and the more that they will do this instant decision stuff, they're also going to be pretty strenuous on kind of that family history stuff and taking a few steps further. So, all right, great questions.
Yes, Donna. Can you clarify? Because at some point in time, I was told that if you do an application, you needed to submit it into opt. So now you're saying that if there's a decline and you submit it, it's going to count against your issue paid rate. So if you do an application, should you enter it in opt, or only if you're okay with it, should you enter it in opt?
Well, again, depends on the carrier. And that's why we're trying to get some clarification on SBLI, the quality level term, because our understanding of that one is you can do it a full application, and if it gets rejected, you don't have to enter that in. Everything else pretty much is, if you go through the application and hit submit at the end and you get it turned down, you've got to enter it, and it will count against your issue paid. The one exception outside of the quality level term is Americo, because they have that two-stage underwriting. So if you take their initial information, their name, their date of birth, their social security number, and then you get them to sign the HIPAA, and that's on the front end of the application, you'll notice it starts the underwriting process right then. And if you get that little pop-up message in the top right corner, and you open that up and it says, it doesn't look like this client, based on their script check, is going to qualify, you can shut down the application. You don't have to submit those because it didn't go through the full application process. However, as I understand it, if you go through an entire Americo, so you clear the first stage of underwriting, then you get to the end and you hit submit and it gets shot down, then you have to go ahead and enter it in, and it counts. But
right.
and again,
because what I was told was you want to submit for app count, but if it's not going to get issued paid, which do you want the app count, or do you not want to do it because it's going to count against you?
It's not about that. Yeah, it's not about that. It's whether or not the app entered into the system. So if it entered into that carrier system, it's going to show on their issue paid report.
Okay.
So it's kind of, think of it almost like balancing a checkbook. We gotta have the numbers line up. If we took the app over here, it needs to show up over here. And if it shows up on the carrier report, but we didn't enter it in, well, that can really start to monkey with the numbers.
Okay.
So, but yeah. But yeah, the SBLI product, I mean, that's obviously still new. We're still figuring some things out. So yeah, Stacy, I would just contact support and see how we handle those that go all the way through to the end of the app process. So again, just kind of wanted to touch for you, as I look at the screen, we've got 7 attendees on here. So, numbers are down, but what I'm looking at here is we've got the 7 that we want on here. Meaning, a lot of times you've got to shrink to grow. We've all brought people on that were, big talkers, big promisers, big dreamers, but didn't back it up with action. And that's really, what we've got to be focusing on. That's why, especially on the building side of things, it just takes time to get that motion going. Now, what I'm seeing, the numbers that are coming in, Stacy, I mean, gosh, this week I've seen a lot of numbers coming through for you on the building side. Same thing for Donna, Stella. I know conversations with Terry, we've got some things fixed on the LinkedIn recruiting. So we're starting to see that kind of early, that's the early part of the wave starting to build. And I'm excited about that because, again, I'm not too worried about where we're at right now because, this is a vision business. This is where you look ahead at where you're going to be, not where you're at right now. And that's why we always tell people not to focus on where somebody else is in the business or what they're doing. Don't try to compare yourself. Your race should be with yourself. Your competition should be with yourself. So, as we push forward, man, we've got a ton in the pipeline. Like I said, just talking with each of you individually throughout the last couple of weeks and hearing what's going on. I mean, we've got a lot of people coming down the pipeline, and I'm excited for that. But I wanted to share with you guys, the importance of keeping the gas on. I started in January 2016 full time, and by summer, I'd got a recruit that had a small team and brought it on. And man, it looks like things were happening. I won't go into the full story, but I mean, that team crashed and burned within a couple, 3 months. And I was back down to 0. And it wasn't until about November of that first year when I landed a running buddy and another one in December and kind of took off again. And then we had early part of the following year, another one come on that really started hitting it. In between there, had several start plugging in. And not writing a lot of business, but writing a little bit of business. And that's what you got to understand is when you're building a team, when you're building an agency, I believe everybody has the potential to win and win big here, but not everybody will. But that's okay. If I get somebody that comes on and just writes a handful of applications, I want them to get everything out of it that they want. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's up to them to get out of what they want. But from my standpoint as a team builder, I'm going to give them all the resources. But if the capacity of the only thing that they're going to do is submit 2 or 3 applications a month, I'm still grateful for that. I hope they get out of it what they want, but it still counts as a writer. And I've talked, Stella and I have had this conversation a lot. If you look at my hierarchy, in fact, if you look at last month. Of that 225,000, I would say fully, I'm just kind of doing some quick math here, fully a third of it came from the top 10, maybe more. But we got a lot on here with, $200 to $1,000 APV for the entire month. Now, there, obviously some of those I see are new names and are just trying to get started, maybe working part-time, trying to figure this thing out. But my point with that is you will never have an entire team of champions where you have 30 riders and all 30 are cranking out 30 grand a piece. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen anywhere. And I know that because I've got a good buddy that's an exec with State Farm, and he and I get together about every 60 days or so to have lunch. It's the same conversation. And these guys are coming in and taking over existing agencies. And he still has his top 10% that do most of the volume, the big, 60% block in the middle that kind of are steady eddies, and then the lower band that basically are, month to month as to whether or not they're going to survive. And that just happens. But the way to get there is, for us individually to make the decision to keep putting in the effort, to just keep talking to people and bringing people on and giving them all the resources and all the help that we can. Doesn't mean you're going to try to drag people across the finish line. You never want to get caught in that trap. You don't want to manage your team, but you want to, again, be that traffic cop. Give them every opportunity to win here, direct them to the right resources, the right training, all that stuff. But the winners are going to win. And that seems a little callous. And I know sometimes we struggle with it a little bit. We all do, because we want to be, especially if we care about people, we want to be super helpful. We want to help them, win at this. But at the end of the day, you can't do it for them. You can't get on the phone for them. You can't set their appointments for them. You can't sit in on the appointments for them, help them close. You just can't do that. If you did that, the rest of your business would fall apart. So that's why this system is so beautiful, in my opinion, because, when I'm interviewing, I tell everybody this is like a franchise system without the franchise cost or overhead. A franchise is something that you can plug into, and somebody's already been there and done that and basically laid out the track to run on. And so my encouragement to you today, and again, just touching on what's happening, because, we had a great call. What was it, yesterday when we jumped on with Fred, those of you who are doing the LinkedIn recruiting, and man, got some huge value out of that training, and some light bulbs went on and some things that we were able to fix. And that was important, not only just to get those things fixed, but also for you to understand, this is the message. And again, I don't have notes here, but so hopefully I'm not rambling too much, but the message is just keep moving forward and keep making mistakes. And that includes on the building side. I think too many times we look at it as on the sales side. Well, I got to go out and make a bunch of mistakes on the sales side. We got to do it on the building side too. Because I can trust you. I used to make this joke all the time when we were doing live meetings. If I got paid every time I did something wrong, I would own my own island, be flying to all the meetings on a private jet. But in reality, you do get paid for doing the things wrong, because that you learn how to course correct, and get on track. The trick is, and this is where I'm really heading with this, is I want to make sure you get your mindsets right, because the trick is to understand when you make a mistake on the building side, or when things are not working, the building side on its own, just the process is so much slower than production. And that's where we trick ourselves. It's just like, well, nothing's happening, so I'm just going to kind of leave the building thing and go write some more business, and then I'll come back and figure it out later. No, guys, you got to stay with the building side, because the mistakes you're making and that you need to correct, you need to keep making those until you figure out how to correct them. And the only way to do that is to keep putting the activity in. And it's a much slower process. So if you keep tapping in and out of the building process, the team building process, you're going to miss out on the lessons that you need to learn to refine that process and keep learning how to do that. And so, we've gone through, I've talked with several of you about this, that, we've gone through about a year plus of things just not working right. And, just the recruiting platform we were using and the automation and everything, it worked so good for so long, but man, it was just a machine that was just breaking down constantly. And we were, I had Lori and I don't know how many conversations we had. Well, let's try this. Let's redo this. We've hired people to come in and write new ads for us. We've tried, posting on, Easter at the 5 a.m. or, just trying everything under the sun that we can to fix things, and ultimately wound up scrapping the entire process that we were using and starting over. Well, in that start over, it took a little time to figure out some things, and we're still working through that of what really works now. And it's funny, you know, we were at the lake house, you know, with Stella last week, and I was sitting talking with Casey, and he's asking, how's it going? And I was like, man, you know, to be honest with you, we're just kind of getting back on our feet. And he kind of chuckled a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's like, so here's one of the owners, one of the founders, you know, 12 years into the business. And I tell him that, and it's not like he said, oh, well, I can, you know, here's what's going wrong. He's like, nope. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. A lot of people have discovered that over the last year, because everything that we've been doing up to that point had been working beautifully. And man, we were just wash, rinse, repeat. And then the wheels came off. And a lot of us were just sitting around, you know, just beating our head on the desk every day, trying to figure out what do we have to do to get this thing back on track. And we don't have it fully back on track, but we're getting there. And the reason we're getting there is because we keep going back, you know, we keep going back to the plate, so to speak. We just had baseball end here, World Series. We keep going back to the plate and swinging, you know, and we keep working on it, trying to figure out what's going to connect. And we're starting to get those connections. You know, the LinkedIn process that we're using is starting to hit. You know, there's still a lot more refining to do there. And there's some things that we're trying, and we had some great tips from Fred. I mean, guys, here's the thing about this. I'll be honest with you. In this business, I haven't innovated anything. I've always copied what everybody else has done. You know, there's some really bright minds in the symmetry and quality system. And I'm not ashamed to say I'm copied every one of them. I don't think I've had original thoughts since I've been here. Because, you know, I just, when I see something else that somebody's doing, take it and run with it. And so we got a little taste of that yesterday with Fred, and came on and said, well, I tried this, this, and this. I was like, wow, that's cool. Guess what I did yesterday afternoon? I was taking all that stuff, I was plugging it in, sending messages out, going back in, re-editing, and just in taking what somebody else was doing and already starting to see the results from that. So my encouragement to you today, and really want to spend the time on, is just where we're at. I feel like we're moving in the right direction. We're doing an excellent job. Every one of you on here is you know, at your own stage of the business, you're doing the right things. I want to encourage you on that. I'm just saying, keep doing them and do as much as you possibly can moving forward. Because at the end of the day, and I think it was in those notes from Danny Young, but I've also heard it. In fact, heard on a call 3 years ago, probably now, from one of the founders, Brian Pope. Just, you know, this is a planting and harvesting business. You've got to stay here long enough to reap the harvest. And our biggest challenge, quite frankly, from the team building side, is, again, not that we can't find talented people. I could look back from my list of hires from the last 6 years, and I have some just phenomenally talented people who quit. That's it. They quit. They were talented, but they quit. Not that they couldn't do it. They quit. And, you know, and you know, are there things that we could have done better? Probably. But at the end of the day, there's been a lot of people who have come into the system when it was a lot worse off who won. You know, so the idea that we're going to put a ton of energy into trying to revamp what we do and how we talk and this and that. No, guys, go copy what has already been done and copy what the other people are innovating. Because Marshall Whalen came in here when this was a company based in the Southeast, only doing business in the Southeast. And he started recruiting all over the country. And he was setting up lead orders in St. Louis. Well, he didn't have anybody in St. Louis. So he jumps on a plane and runs out to St. Louis to start running leads. You know, I had a conversation with him about 3-4 years ago now. We were sitting in a leaders conference in Asheville. We just happened, Scott and I bumped into him at breakfast. So we sit down at the Waffle House and just talking to him. And it's amazing when you get a chance to sit face to face and talk to somebody like that. And he's talking about He's like, yeah, I don't get, you guys doing all these electronic applications. He's like, wow, I don't understand it. I mean, it's like, that's all a lot of us know is electronic applications. But Marshall's talking about walking around with a bag full of applications, and he sits down with a client and he has them sign 5 applications because he doesn't know what they qualify for. So he's going to have them sign 5 applications so he can go back, do the underwriting, call, figure out who's going to likely approve them, fill out that application, and then send it in and hope to get it approved. Because if he doesn't, then he's got to go back to square one. Guys, if you're seeing, and that just blows my mind, because if you're seeing 12 people, 12 appointments a week and 5 applications per appointment, that's 60 applications you're carrying around your back. Just the logistics of that blows my mind. And yet here's a guy that, every month is earning 7 figures. I mean, so, and again, I know I'm bouncing around a lot here, but I want to really impress on you, just to keep moving forward, keep focusing on that next step. Right now, I would be just, and we got to break it down into small steps. Denver's our next step. Everything we're doing, from a production standpoint, make sure you're doing everything you need to every month to cover your bills and put money aside for your recruiting and team building. But in your recruiting and team building, your hard focus is on Denver. What do I have to do to get people in the pipeline so that I can get them to Denver and be having that conversation with everybody? Guys, if you get that, at least 10, and for some of you who've been around a little bit longer, you want more. You want more than 10, but at least 10 people at Denver. And within that next 6 months, you'll be running agency owner numbers. Obviously, if you want more, then bring more people and you'll be running a bigger business. 10 should be your minimum, but you're not going to hurt yourself if you bring 20 or 30 or 40. And we've seen it happen. We've seen people that basically in their first year, their first conference that they were eligible to come to, that they, brought 25, 30 people. It's rare, but it can happen. It can happen with the right intention and focus. So, all right, I'm going to take a pause. Let anybody chime in who has questions, thoughts, wants feedback or wants to give feedback or thoughts on what we've talked about so far.
I have a quick question. So in terms of the people that we're bringing on board, a lot of my people now are still working full time, right? Uh-huh. So I think out of the 6, 3 of them have gotten their license. 1 was already licensed. The other 2 are in pre-licensing, but they're still doing other jobs. So it's hard for them to stay plugged in like they want to. So what do I recommend to them aside from go back and watch the recordings of the national calls, watch our team call when you can, anything else they can do to kind of stay plugged in, even though their minds are kind of split into their real jobs?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stacey. And what you're doing the right thing. I would take it a step further though. So I would give them instructions. So like on Monday, hey, the Monday sales call, I know you're at work, you can't watch it, but as soon as you get off, you need to get on. And they may not post it that quickly. I'm trying to think, Stella would know better than I do if they post them that quickly. But basically what we want them to do is we want to give them a specific time to watch or listen to that call. So maybe it's 48 hours later, maybe the Monday call by Tuesday night. I want you to listen to that call and then text me some notes on what your takeaways were. And, what we're wanting there, 2 things. Number 1, confirmation that they're following through. But number 2, that they're paying attention, that they're getting something out of the call. But it's also going to, for them, it's going to start, plugging them into the system. And you'll hear a lot of your top builders talking about you want to get them exposed to the Symmetry system because that's what's going to move them further down the line. That's what's going to build that energy to where they now start instead of just, okay, well, I'm going to do this on a part-time basis. Now they're going to start thinking, okay, what can I do to actually get rid of my full-time and make this my full-time? The other thing that I would do, in this, you know, we're at a time in this business where there's never been a better time to do this part-time, because, you know, working remotely, you know, I've had people that I've started in the past when we were in home where, you know, they got off work and then had to drive maybe an hour to run appointments. And, you know, by the time you leave at 5 from your work and drive an hour at 6, and now you really only have time to do maybe 1 or 2 appointments before you got to get home and take care of family. That's tough. Well, now, I mean, we all know how this is. You can, you know, you can stack appointments right on top of the other because you don't have drive time. So this is a perfect time for somebody who is working part-time. But again, we have to be very intentional about it. So I would sit down with them and say, okay, what's your work schedule? If it's 9 to 5, great. What days do you want to work this business? Do you want to work it in the evenings? Perfect. Do you want to work it on the weekends? Probably better, but, you know, it doesn't matter. We're going to let them set that. And then we want to help them put together what that work schedule looks like. So if they're working evenings, I'm going to tell somebody, hey, I want you to do dial session on Monday night, setting your appointments for Tuesday night. So within that 24-hour window. And then Wednesday, I want you back on the phone, setting your appointments for Thursday. You know, and so we just do it at every other night. Or if it's on the weekends, I would tell somebody, okay, Friday night, you're going to jump on the phone Saturday morning, and you're going to back your Saturday afternoon is just as packed as you possibly can make it. In fact, double book appointments if you have to. You know, and just kind of explain, when we double book, that's going to protect our time, because if somebody no shows, there's a good chance that other person is going to show up. If 2 people show up, that's great, because you can send a message to, again, you know, make sure they understand how to use Zoom in the waiting room. But you can send a message, hey, I'm sorry, I'm on another meeting that's going longer than I intended. I'll follow up with you as soon as we hang up. And so that keeps that schedule full for a part-time person. But, you know, again, the point being is we have to be very intentional with the part-time person on how we help them set up their schedule. Because if we leave it, hey, just make sure you get on the calls and work when you can. Well, it could happen, but probably won't, because very few people are that determined or intentional. But if we help them become intentional, we show them how to do it, that's going to help them, you know, turn that into real activity. The other thing that I would do is, Stacey, is I would have a conversation with them. We got to understand their why. Why are you in this business? And if it's just to be a part-time producer, that's okay. But we want to know that, because we don't want to put the kind of time and energy to try to convert them into a full-time if they're only interested in part-time. And if they want to do part-time, hey, we'll do everything we can to support you, but we're also not going to try to convert you into a full-time. If they want to go full-time, then again, kind of coming down into clear expectations. Well, when would you like to be full-time? You know, do you hate your job with a burning passion that it's the day that you can figure out a way to get out of there, you know, that you're going to be, you know, middle finger to the boss and out the door? Or is it something that you want to strategize? And typically when you've got somebody that's got a pretty good career, when they've got an income, most of those people are going to want to put together a 6-month plan or something like that. And so we want to help them. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You know, here's the activities that you're going to do. And I've even gone as far as, well, how much would you need in savings to feel comfortable to leave your existing job? And then we just walk through, okay, you need $10,000. Okay, well, that's going to take 10 applications. Actually, I'm kind of doing math off the fly here. It's probably more than 10 applications, but you get the idea. We reverse the numbers, work backwards. Here's how many applications. Every time you get paid on the application, make sure you put it in your savings account. And then when we hit that number, then you can put in your 2-week notice, or, you know, whatever that may be. So there's a couple different ways to plan that. One is kind of the nest egg. The other is the cash flow. You know, when I get to where I am consistently every week earning $2,000 or $1,000 of commissions on a part-time basis, then I know I can leave my job, because if I'm able to do that on a part-time, you know, with 10 to 15 hours, if I go to 40 hours, I should be able to expand that capacity out. So we just kind of help cast the vision with very specific, activity based on what their goals are. And again, that's kind of where it's important to have that why conversation, because here's the beautiful thing about the part-time is they can do a lot part-time. The challenge is it takes somebody that really understands their why. They got to understand why they're doing it, because for a short period of time, they're going to be burning the candle at both ends. And that burnout, it's going to happen pretty quickly if they don't have a nice big vision set in front of them of what they're trying to accomplish from an activity standpoint. So hopefully that helps give you some guidance there on how to set that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, anything anybody wants to throw out?
Where should I begin with recruiting? Should I go? Is there like training on Quill to You, or should I just talk into my warm lead?
That's a great question, Brandon. So there's were you able to get on the call last Friday? The hierarchy call with the Make group?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. We need to get you a recording of that, because that was a call with Kyle Cambrell, who is one of the fastest growing agencies in the history of Symmetry, and he did it. As Kyle said, he got a little confused when Scott asked him the question, because Scott said, "How much did you spend?" Kyle kind of stopped and was like, "I think I spent $15 in the beginning on a Craigslist ad." He totally threw him off. It kind of cracked me up. But anyway, the point being is he built the team just through word of mouth. So to me, anybody starting brand new, I would start through word of mouth, And there's some resources and things that you can invest in from a recruiting standpoint. But man, right now with what we have in technology and social media and the ability to connect with people. So remind me, Brandon, we'll get you a copy of that call.
Yes.
Listen to that. It's a very, very simple process. But okay. Yeah, I'd be starting first with your network, people that you worked with in the past, friends, family. I like what Scott Make always says, people that you like and would want to go on vacation with. That's the people that you should be reaching out to, because that's the thing about this business. As you get built up, it takes a little bit of time. I mean, sometimes you can qualify on personal production, but as you get an agency built and you start getting a team and it starts expanding, within 3 to 4 years, you're going to start taking trips paid for by the carriers, paid for by Symmetry. And you're going to be taking trips with all these people who are your peers. And so, again, pick the people that you want to go on vacation with, because someday, you will be.
I'd love to add to that because, and I know Terry is going to kill me, but I just, Terry, can you just share your story one more time real quick with Brandon? Because I don't think he heard it, and some of these other people that are here, because really the bottom line is just becoming aware of your surroundings with every single person around you. Before I give it to Terry, I will tell you last night when I was following up with getting somebody issued on their IUL, this guy is a hard worker. He's a business owner. So I said, "Hey, Damien, you're such a hard worker. Who do you know that, would be looking to, make some additional income, part-time, or, just brought it up." And he's like, "Actually, I've got this guy." And we got in that conversation. I said, "Awesome, send him to me, give him." And I said, "We'll see if it's a fit, but that's just, one thing. And I know that I've been, reaching out to people. And Terry, can you go ahead and tell them your story real quick? I just love it.
I'm sorry, I'm driving right now. But I think everybody already heard the story. So, I just, I had 2 people sign on this past week that I met at my yard sale 2 weeks ago. So it was a neighbor of mine. I had never met them before, but I had a book in the
yard sale that was getting your real estate license for dummies, and he was buying it. I think I was selling it for like $1. And I just got to asking him if he was going to get his license. And I said, yeah, I was going to do the same. But then, I stumbled into insurance, got my insurance license instead. And I said, it was, for me, it was a much better path to go down. I really like it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I gave him my card. And I said, give me a call if you're interested, and I'll talk to you about it. And, this past week, I got a text from his wife. They got talking about it. I think they had looked at my webpage and whatnot, and then decided they wanted to give it a try. So they both signed on, and they're going to get signed up for their license training, and they're super excited. So that's pretty much the story. But it's just funny, that something as random as a yard sale, you end up, running into people that, could change their lives. They both have been looking for something different. They're burnout in the jobs that they have. They're young. They have a little one that's 1.5 years, and they're looking for a better future, and I just felt good about that, maybe I can be for them.
Yeah, no, and that is so great, Terry. And so I hope that you all got from it that, you won't know unless you ask. And she's not being a secret agent. That was the one thing that she said. She's like, I'm not being a secret agent. Get this. And that's what it's all about. Don't be a secret agent. Talk about it. So that's what I wanted to share. I just love that story. Thanks, Terry.
That's perfect. I love it. And as you were talking, Terry, the thought came to my mind, you have not because you ask not. So ask. Simply ask. And same thing goes for production. Guys, I mean, how many times, and this happened to me this last week, I met with a couple of business owners, and we were talking about a buy-sell agreement. I could have gone and I did. I went in with the term, but I said, hey, you're business owners. What if you had something that you could put some cash aside? For you're responsible for your own retirement. Walk through IUL illustration. You're like, well, that's a no-brainer. Well, I could have taken the easy swing, gone for what was the cheaper, and probably wrote that easy enough, still probably pretty decent premium. But why not ask? And throw it out there. So just keep, just operate your business from that mindset that, just ask. You have not because you ask not. All right, everybody, we got to wrap it up. We are top of the hour. So let's bounce off and get on with our Fridays. Great to have you all on, guys. Keep up the great work. I'm excited for where we're headed. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Zoom.